welcome to the second episode of Radical Love, How a Revolution in Love Will Transform Your Life. And Kim, I'm about to introduce a really remarkable human being to y'all. And we've had an amazing journey just getting here. We're going to talk about that today. And just as a reminder, before I formally introduce Kim, the concept of radical love is the idea and the practice of really loving ourselves exactly, where we are, loving others exactly where they are, loving our circumstances exactly where they are, even if they're not what we would have chosen. So, it's the idea that nothing in the external world needs to change, I think is radical, because that is not what we've been taught. So, and that in that we can not only, and Kim and I are going to talk about this in further detail today, but not only overcome those seemingly insurmountable circumstances, but overcome, transform, dissolve our day-to-day challenges and the rigor in which we experience life, and how that will also dissolve when we just shine that radical love, laser beam of radical love on ourselves and others and the situation. And so I'm really thrilled, and I know this is going to be another really, really powerful conversation. So let me formally introduce this beautiful soul that is right here, and her name is Kim Key, and you can find information about Miss Kim at KimberlyKey.com. So that's KimberlyKy.com.
That's right.
.com. And Kimberly is I was thinking about how to introduce you, and I want to say you're a Renaissance woman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I'll accept that. Yes.
Good. Yay, because you really are. As an artist, as a photographer, as a healer, and actually that umbrella. I'm gonna even say that umbrella. That is the umbrella from which you do your work as a photographer, because I know that is where you're coming from, and that may not be something that is as easily definable as the fact that you also heal through your teaching of yoga. You also have a background in being a coach yourself, so you have a wealth of transformational principles yourself. And there's probably even more, mama. That's
like number one now,
new mama. I don't know that is number one, absolutely. And that is what the conversation, I think, is really going to head in that direction, in terms of what it's like for you to be a new mom and to navigate all rigorous opportunities. That's what, the way I like to say it in terms of transformation, but the average way of putting it is rough, probably challenging. This is some really legit, but I say, and this is a colleague of mine who uses this term, rigorous, opportunities, just because then we can even change the way we think about what is occurring versus this is rough and this is, but that, the level of facts and circumstances, many people would just say that. So before we fully get off there, welcome. Yay. Welcome, Kim. We're doing it.
Yes. Perfect timing too, Corey, because baby just walked through the door and I hear him fussy. But, this is part of the process, right? This is part of trusting that all is well.
Yeah.
And that him fussing does not mean that I'm not a good mom or that I don't love him, right? So that timing was just impeccable. Yeah.
That is, when we were talking about recently, Kim, about where we might go in our conversation, and I know that it's always a matter of just, letting infinite intelligence, divine intelligence, flow to us and through us, and that just today we realized this is the direction we're going to go in, and how you are doing it, but also continuing to learn how to have that radical love for yourself as a new mom.
Yes, definitely. To backtrack just a little bit, because you said something really powerful. You were talking about not radical love in these amazing, I mean, you use different words, but like remarkable experiences, but it's really finding it in the mundane. It's
Yes.
finding it in these micro moments
Yeah.
that make all the difference. It's noticing a destructive thought when you're in traffic and just being with that thought, because there's nowhere for you to literally go but to just be with that. Or it's when I'm nursing my baby and I'm having this like rush of the to-do list and like things I need to do to perform well and to be spectacular, but I'm here and he's nursing and there's nowhere for me to go. How can I accept that that's my reality right now? And I think that goes into what we were talking about earlier about noticing when we're practicing and not practicing, because it's the mundane moments when we notice. It's not when we wash our hair and we put on a little lipstick and we put on a presentable top and prepare a presentation, right? It's so
that's the work. That's the work. It's one thing for us to, have this conversation, like you said, and put on do the hair and makeup and, get yourself. But, the work is in those moments where it's us and maybe baby or just us in the traffic. Nobody's watching. So we're not putting on our like camera ready kind of thing, but just like, okay, it's just me in this moment. And if I, had a choice, I would probably choose things to be different. Maybe like you said, in traffic, I'd choose there not to be traffic, but I can notice, and this is the first principle of brave thinking, is to notice what you're noticing. And that is what you teach your students, as a yoga teacher and healer. And that really is, because I know, you're talking about how you're reminding them that you want to pay attention to when you're not breathing. And right, because as you take a breath and I take a breath, and how powerful that is, and that we can have that practice of breathing beyond just the physical in the studio and practicing the powerful practice of yoga, but in the traffic with baby. And just taking that breathing. And what I've learned through one of my colleagues is that the breath can transform our nervous system. And you probably know this as a teacher, but I didn't actually know this until a couple of years ago. And that, when we are moving into something new, and this can happen when we're in traffic too, but excuse me, definitely when we're moving toward our vision, toward our dream, or we're in a circumstance that is different than what we're used to. We're moving out of the status quo. It can trigger our nervous system, and it triggers the fight or flight, right? It triggers the sympathetic nervous system. I got all this technical stuff that I learned, and I was really thrilled to go, oh, sympathetic nervous system, right? So I knew fight or flight, but I didn't know it was the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So learning, as you know, because you are a healer, that in order for us to move from that sympathetic nervous system, which is I got to fight this, or I got to run or freeze, move into the parasympathetic, where we rest and digest, and is to breathe. And there is this technique that you might know of, but I hadn't heard of before, rectangular breathing. So it's just, if you picture a rectangle, you know this, don't you? Or something similar. So it's the breathing in for 4, holding for 2, breathing out for 4, and then holding for 2, and then creating a little rectangular box. And that, can actually move us from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's what you do. That's what you teach your students.
Yes, it's definitely first recognizing the breath as it is. I think that's the first point of radical love, right? Not trying to control the breath, not trying to control the situation, because I think trying to control the breath is the same as trying to control the external situations, because your breath is a response to the external situation or the condition that you're in. So you first just sit with, okay, my breath is short right now. My breath is very short, or I'm not feeling it at all. I'm not even sure where the tension is. And once you sit long enough, that information comes to the surface, right? It's like, oh, I'm feeling it in my neck, I'm feeling it in my shoulders. And then after that, you're able to identify the thoughts that are feeding into that tension. And then once you are able to work with something tangible, it's like, oh, I'm feeling self-judgment around being late. I'm feeling self-judgment around feeding my baby late. I'm feeling judgment around him sitting in his diaper. Okay, that's the situation, but everything is still fine. And then once you work with something tangible like that, what magically happens is that the breath begins to smooth out. So coming back to radical love, it's like loving yourself when you're in the practice and when you're not. Loving yourself when the breath is not smooth and when it is. You know, it's really a holistic approach to loving yourself. You know?
I mean, even it was so poignant when it was one sentence, but when you had said, oh, baby just came in and I can hear baby fussing. And you didn't say it exactly in this way, but basically like you were kind of making a decision to know that I'm a good mom, even though baby is fussing. Those words, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because, you know, a lot of times, especially as a new mom, when I'm out and baby's fussing, sometimes that equates to I'm not loving him well. And then you get all this external reaction to like, why is your baby fussing? Oh, poor baby. Or like, you know, it's so much is out of our control, such as life, right? There's so many things out of our control. He's figuring himself out. Right. You know, he's discovering his preferences. I'm discovering his temperament. So it's really just finding the center in that chaos where it's like, okay, I'm meeting things as they come, you know?
Right. And that actually, I think that's another good point in terms of what I'm, you know, practicing more and more myself is radical love for others. You know, it's empathy, and it's rather than the, oh, well, our baby is so loud, versus, you know, really the empathy of that looks challenging. And let me just send that mama or dad, but, you know, often that mama and baby some love and light versus judgy McJudge, you know, like, ooh. So,
yeah.
Or even, you know, because you're talking about like being in the store, or I'm just picturing you in a store and getting that feedback, or honestly, like the person who's a little bit, in Hawaii would say like habut, like little bit habut attitude, like little bit stink attitude, like the cashier, and you're like, oh, okay, they're a little bit habut today, but rather than being reactive to that, to breathe and go, oh, there's a human being in front of me, and they must be having a challenging time.
Yeah, and that's radical compassion too, to truly not take things personally, to not internalize those things, right?
Yes. And what I have found is the more work I do for myself and radical love of myself, the easier it is for me to have that radical love.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It all starts with the experience we have internally. Yes. Because if we're not holding that space for ourselves, all we see is a mirror, right? Because we're all mirrors for each other. So if you see the cashier and they're having, you know, a stinky attitude, and you're like, oh, that's a stinky attitude. Like, why are they being like that? Right. That's because we're sort of being like that in some way. And that's what we choose to focus on. But if we focus on, you know what, I'm doing my best today, then you see someone else and you're like, they're also doing their best today.
Right. And because I believe if we have a foundation of that love for ourselves, what I'm calling radical love, because it's not based on what most of us, as I said at the beginning, were taught, like, you know, we love ourselves when baby is acting like, you know, like perfect baby, or when I'm all done, or whatever, or when we get the job, or we get the, you know, we release the weight, or put on the weight if we want more muscle, whatever it may be. But it's nothing in the external world changes, but we have a foundation of, you know, I am enough. I am love. Not only do I love, but I'm made of love. So that if somebody throws a little bit stink attitude, there's no need to be offended, because I don't have like a house built on sand or whatever, like, you know, or like I gotta have it you got to have you be nice to me. Otherwise I get offended because I need, well, maybe it's because like I need your approval or I need you to be a certain way, but you just do you, you know. There's the saying, you know, we hear the saying that you never know what another person is experiencing or what they might be. What is the saying? You know, like what challenges or how they may be suffering.
Right.
We can't see. And the idea that if we knew what they were experiencing, my coach, my mentor, Mary, talks about this time where she was actually in a grocery store and there was a woman who was really like unskilled is a nice way of putting it. I generally say unskilled versus habut or stink attitude because I have an energy around that, which is contractive. But if I'm unskilled, okay, it's a little bit more, it's much more expansive. It's unskilled, but I'm not so judgy myself. Judgy, it's like a paradox. She said this woman was particularly, she was just really rude. And then as she was leaving, the person, you know, who helped her with the bags, I guess I forget what the title is, but you know, taking the bags to the car, and she said I started gossiping and saying, well, that cashier was just very rude. I was like, yeah, you know, she's having a hard day. She's a single mom, and her little boy today was hit by a car on his bike, and he's in the hospital. And she cannot be there because she's a single mom, has to work, and she's going to go there. And of course, the minute, just like you, right, the minute she heard that, she had nothing but compassion, like, But radical love is we don't need to know the details. We don't need to know that story. We just know that if anybody is acting in that way, something's off. We're not connected to who we really are.
Right. Yeah. Wow, that was really powerful. There's so much insight that flowed through when you were saying that. So I'll try to take what I can. One of the things is hurt people. And when we feel hurt by someone, we can remember that they're hurt for reasons that we may never even see. And that sort of neutralizes, right? And then we're able to step into a place of compassion because we remember that. And then we remember that we are always loved. So therefore we can always love as well, you know? And that's it's such a simple concept, but it's so big because we get our feelings hurt all the time. We're sensitive people. We have an inner child that compensates in other ways. But that's really helped me in a lot of struggles with people who I love a lot as well. You know, that because that's the deepest hurt. But then you have to come back into, or I have to come back into my own self-control to come back into love. So that's like the practice, right? No matter what happens, I have self-control over how I take care of myself. And the other thing that I really wanted to share was that I read this other article about how what other people do and whether or not they change has no effect on our own happiness.
Yes.
Has zero impact, actually. Yeah. And it really comes back to self-control and maintaining that radical love practice, right? So all powerful stuff that comes back to our own center, our own self.
Yes. Yeah, it really does. It's the foundation. Yeah, you know, I'm thinking of somebody who I worked with, and you know, she this person could be really unskilled and like, oh man, we're, you know, in a meeting, just like, you know, very, very rude and hostile, and it was like, oh, did that just happen, kind of a thing. Fast forward to me doing the work, and even though that's occurring, just going, okay, well, you know, we all have our moments or what have you. And then there was this one moment where we were at a meeting, and it was a large meeting, so there's a lot of people there, and she was presenting, and something wasn't working. The technology wasn't working, and I just thought, let me go help. You know, local staff from Hawaii, we like help people. You know, we just always want to help people, generally speaking. And so I was like, can I help you? And she was absolutely, you know, panicked. And I'm pretty good at picking up on energy and picking up on what's really, I can kind of, through practice, or maybe just, you know, I don't know. We all have different kind of like antenna, but I can generally really, even if, you know, pick up on energy. And I just saw how much self-loathing she had for herself in that moment because the technology wasn't working. And she was like, oh,
it must be me. Yeah, like that's, you know.
Yeah, it's just that like they're not going to love me if I don't do this perfectly. I am not working.
So conditional, right?
So conditional. And then it made sense why she was doing those things I'd seen in the past to other people. Because she's so, and like you said, hurt people. And also it's just like people who are so hard on themselves are usually so hard on others. But I think if they're hard on others, they're even harder on themselves.
Totally. I'm going to pause for just 1 second because I hear him and I think that's a hungry cry.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is take care of him while I'm talking to you, which I've done. I'm very experienced in this. So will that be okay?
Yeah, this is great too, because, you know, we were going to kind of also talk about, you know, having the topic be about being a new mom.
Yeah, let me go get him. We'll make a special appearance.
I'll drink some water. Oh, yay, freedom is coming. Baby freedom. If you're not, if you don't have the video and you're listening to the podcast, I'll just say Kim is being mama and she's going to go get her baby. We'll have a cameo if you're watching the video. And if not, you might be able to hear baby on the podcast, which is really special and important. To illustrate that as a new mom, you don't have to have these separate compartments.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, I'm here, baby.
You were so patient. I'm so proud of you. Oh, that's coming. It's coming here.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Hi, baby freedom. Hi, baby pie. Look at those cheeks.
I know.
Hi, little love.
Say hi, baby. We were just talking about love.
Yeah.
And how mama takes care of you and herself at the same time. Yeah. Okay.
Talking about this earlier. Can I talk while you're getting ready and everything?
Yes, I'm gonna just tilt the camera up just a little bit.
Of course. Have a little privacy. About how you know, as a mom, and I'm not a mom, but I've helped take care of my cousin's baby and toddler, and for a while at a time. And what I noticed, what I wasn't cognizant of before, is that as a mom, you never check out. You never clock out. You never clock out.
I lost a part of my mind just because now it's like I don't know how to explain it. It's like just a part of my mind is completely connected to him all the time. It's always on. It's just you do lose a part of yourself, you know?
Yeah. I know we were that this makes me think about that Oprah Winfrey video in which she recently was reflecting on the first time she had a life coach on her show. And the life coach, and I think this was in the 90s, and the life coach, because this was all new, the life coach was saying, making the argument that mothers, you want to put yourselves first. And everyone in the audience booed her. They like legit booed her. And, Oprah was making the point that look how far we've come. But I think also clearly, not think, but there's much more room for growth. Would you agree?
Yes, definitely. I mean, just to kind of give a little bit about what's on a deeper personal level right now. I'm experiencing postpartum depression and anxiety, and I started experiencing panic. And so I've actually gotten some support around that. I've had mental health support for about 10 years, over 10 years or so. So I went back and I was like, I'm not happy with myself. And I would have crying spells, and it'd be so unpredictable. If I had panic attacks, and like worrying endlessly about what if that little choice ruins the rest of his life? It's on me, And after facing that, I realized, you know what? I have to be happy.
Yeah.
Like there's no other way for me to to live the rest of my life as a mother if I'm not happy. Because then I'm coming from an empty cup and I'm just running on fumes. I'm dehydrated. I'm giving him all my nutrients, all my liquids. And so that changed everything. And what it helped me do was let go more and trust other people to hold him and to take care of him and not be so controlling over the external situations. And trust that I'm in the process, and to realize that him and I are growing together. It's not like, oh, I became a mom and therefore that caps my growth, my personal growth as me, as an individual. It's like I need to continue to develop as he develops, because he's growing so rapidly that if I don't keep up, there's a disconnect between him and I.
Oh, wow, that's a good point.
And then as a result, there's a disconnect between me and myself, because me as a mother is a huge part of my identity and my being now. Yeah. So definitely we have a lot to grow into, I think, as a culture, because even if moms are working now, it's still expected that the mom does a certain amount for the home and for the baby. It's like, then I think what needs to change is like culture around dads being more of the home base. Dads like being more of the nurturer and learning that, and humans becoming more dynamic in general and playing all those different roles,
Absolutely. So. Yeah, definitely. That there's a fluidity to gender.
And yes, that's exactly what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I just, as I teach this stuff at the university, I've taught that for many years, the fact that gender is a construct, and that, as we know, for the most part, women are encouraged to be feminine. Men not only are encouraged to be masculine, but hyper masculine, but we all have each, within us, and that they are constructed by the way in which we were raised, and so on and so forth. And I do see it shifting, but there's definitely, I'm looking forward to that greater shift where men can feel comfortable in their femininity, right? In their ability. Well, because if we look at what we're going to call a nurturer, that's going to be under the heading of being feminine, a nurturer, right? And then, of course, it's, not to get too far off topic, but privileging of the masculine over the feminine.
Yeah.
It is shifting, which I'm glad. But it takes these moments of when we see the mom in the store and the crying baby, to not have condemnation, but to really check our own thinking and see what's happening and having love for them, and then seeing and knowing it's not, what is that adage where like you see the dad and the baby and you're like, oh my gosh, isn't he amazing?
Yeah.
The mom,
so hands-on.
Right? Yeah. But if as a mom and a baby, like, that's just what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So, and then the idea of, like you're saying, just, loving yourself when you're not with the pretty blouse. And earlier today he said,
I washed my hair for you, Corey. Put on lipstick for you.
I did too. I washed my hair, I put little pins, I put some makeup.
Yeah, this pin is not normally here. This one pin.
Oh, me too. I got two. And they're not normally here because either. But, got to be camera ready.
Yeah.
I'm even cognizant of that. I'm like, it is ironic, kind of maybe paradoxical that I'm like getting ready for this podcast that's talking about radical love, but I still feel like I got to be.
Yes.
But, and yet, we do what we can from where we are with what we have. And this is, but it's just such an interesting thing to talk about. I love that you say you washed your hair.
I know. I was like, would I still be radically loving myself if I just show up on camera the way that I woke up this morning?
Yes, that would be so fierce. That would be the most fierce. Hi, baby Freedom. So yes, you've heard it already, but just to formally, Tim's baby, his name is Freedom. Hi. Hi, baby. Hello.
Say hi.
Oh my goodness, look at the smile. Hi. Are you happy now? You had, in Hawaii we say kaukau. You had kaukau and you're happy and well fed? Hi. Oh my goodness, this is very special that he's joining us.
Oh, he wants to talk now.
What I was saying before you went to go get baby was that it was also really important, as a new mom, or as a mom, for you to not feel like you have to separate, have different compartments. Like, oh, baby,
Yes.
my dear friend.
Oh yeah.
Can you keep baby? Just wait until we're done. But
oh yeah.
I'm gonna go get baby.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. To piggyback off what you said, it's like to have him around and still be myself. So it's kind of like I am his mom full time, and I don't want to just put him off to the side when I'm doing my thing. I want to incorporate him, even though professionally it's kind of like take care of your baby so you can show up. But I've been learning that I can be radical in the way that I raise my baby. Yesterday, I made a presentation to the local elementary school PTC for a workshop, a retreat that I'm putting on, and I held him the whole time. As I was making this speech and this presentation, I took questions. I made it happen. I had a meeting the other day with an art gallery manager with him in my lap. And it's like, I don't want to be apologetic for the fact that I'm a mom. I want to change the way people see how powerful, productive, professional women can lead their life with baby in tow. Because if we think back, like women used to carry their babies while farming, while taking care of the house, while doing whatever they need to do. And the whole village, hi, I see you. He agrees. He goes, go mom. So.
You're redefining what being a professional mother looks like. You're helping to redefine.
Yes.
Into talking about it, but you're just illustrating it by being it, by walking into those meetings and doing these things. And I would love to see that with dads too. You know what?
Oh yeah.
I thought about that when you said that. I thought about the man who was in his office at home, and he was having that conference, like where his baby kept coming into the room.
Yeah. It was so endearing.
It was. What would have been great is for him to be.
Yeah.
Because he was trying to and then his wife came in and on her knees to try to grab the baby, and it was sweet, but then also a little bit, a little problematic, but this idea that to be.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Oh, sorry.
My baby's interrupting you. Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. Exactly. And rather than it being fluid and just it's almost as if we forget that we were all babies and that we all
I know, right?
came from. So why are we so into this construct of to be a professional means it has to be this way?
Yes.
And it's time, and it is changing, and you are helping with that, which is amazing. So sweet. How old is Frito?
He's 7 months today.
Today?
Yes. Happy 7 months, baby. What a way to celebrate.
It's your birthday. We didn't know we were going to have a podcast with some singing birthday songs.
I know.
But that's what we're doing, Frito. Happy birthday. Yeah. And I loved it when we were talking with our pre-call. You talked about how, because it is easier to love ourselves when we look in a mirror and we see the image that we think we like, or that we say, good, and we go, versus the reality of it. And you talked about what your day often looks like. If you would describe that again. It's not like this, but when you were walking around with, and how you got.
Oh yeah. Sometimes I have one shoe on, one dirty diaper, toothbrush in my hand. He's fussing,
Yeah.
The coffee that I had prepared got totally cold, the breakfast I was gonna have, just sitting there, I stood up the date with my food, Right.
Oh gosh, right.
And it's and then I also just see all the stuff that I didn't get to, and those are just really hurtful moments to myself when all I see is what's not right. Because it makes the moment so much more overwhelming, instead of being you know what, I'm here, I'm in it. And I think the commitment to treating ourselves well, the commitment to continuing to explore love instead of in achieving something is more sustainable.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, I know what it was, but you were helping me to, as this concept evolves, that it's not just about having conversations, with people who have these seemingly kind of like, oh, but we're just, it's the radical love for ourselves in the way that you said it earlier, right? The mundane and the micro moments.
Yes.
The moment when you're walking down the street with your toothbrush in your mouth, as endearing as that is, the moment you are feeling that love for yourself, but feeling like, this is not good, but really it's just the perception and the judgment that takes work of going like, it's all good. But, diaper in a hand and all of this, and it's in those moments.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the bad is comparison to what you define as good. So if you redefine what is good, then everything changes. Yes, definitely.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So will you tell me, Kim, about what you have coming up and the events you have coming up? Will you share that with our audience, please?
Yes, perfect timing because we're talking about motherhood and accepting ourselves and giving to ourselves. So I'm putting on a day-long retreat with my co-facilitator, Leah Mercado. It's called Healing for Mothers. And we're really going to go into our birth stories, when we were born and when we gave birth, and to connect the dots between the two and basically release patterns so that we can be more present for our children and just get to know ourselves better, connect to our lineage. And there's also going to be self-care tools. So we're going to use props from home to restore and just commit to connecting to ourselves. It's going to be beautiful. It's sponsored by the local school district, the local Alvarado Elementary PTC. We're going to be donating a portion of the proceeds back to the PTC, just to rewrite the vision of self-care for the community. Like, releasing stigma around mental health.
Where is the location of the
Alvarado Elementary School in Union City, California? Saturday, May 18th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tickets are $40, and they can search Healing for Mothers, women who are in the Bay Area, or if you want to travel up, that's awesome too, on Eventbrite. We're selling tickets on Eventbrite, and the event is also on Facebook, Healing for Mothers.
I will put a link on at the bottom of my for podcast is Radical Love. My business is Kaizen Empowerment Coaching, and and I have a place for the Radical Love podcasts, and I will have a link there to Healing for Mothers so that everyone can come. How powerful that is for mothers to even just decide that they deserve the healing. I mean, really, that it's like you said, they're filling the well from which they draw, so they have more for baby.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And then you also do you have something coming up in Hawaii and LA?
Yes, we have Intimacy Through Yoga. So my partner and I teach yoga. We teach couples how to get closer through yogic concepts.
Wow.
That's through verbal communication, through different types of physical touch, and simply practicing and breathing together. So we have one in Honolulu on July 13th. You can find information on our website at intimacythroughyoga.com. And then we're making plans to come down to LA by the end of the year. So look out for that.
Great. So that one is intimacythroughyoga.com. And I believe you said July 13th?
Yes. Yes.
That you got to go. I mean, I'm small time biased because I was born and raised in Hawaii. But whether you are there because you live there, Kama'aina, or whether you're going to go there for the summer for a little vacation, I think that sounds amazing. Like a whole nother level of radical love for your partner and yourself and intimacy. So that's beautiful. So any final thoughts or anything else you'd love to share before we bring our wonderful call to a landing, Kim?
Yeah, just find beauty in the mundane.
Yeah. And loving yourself as a new mom, having that radical love for yourself, and we did it, right? We traversed a lot of obstacles just to get here and to have this call.
Yes, we're doing it. We're living the path.
And through that, we experienced and practice radical love for ourselves. Yes. Bye, Kim. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
I'm going to say one thing as Kim went to go ahead and take care of baby Freedom, is that as you move into the rest of your day, I hope that as always that you love big, that you be brave, and that you share your beautiful, beautiful light with the world and practice that radical love for yourself and others and your current situation. And I will talk to you in our next podcast. Bye for now. Ahui ho.